death of cash. What happens when money goes fully digital? When was the last time you actually used cash? Not a card, not Apple Pay, not Venmo, actual physical money? If you're struggling to remember, you're not alone. And that's exactly the point. Cash is dying, and most people are cheering for its death without realizing what we're about to lose. Right now, across the globe, governments and corporations are racing toward the same goal, a completely cashless society. Sweden is almost there. Barely 10% of transactions use physical money. China is ahead with its digital yuan. India eliminated most of its cash overnight in 2016. Even the US is quietly moving in this direction. And everyone's selling this as progress. Convenience, safety, the future. But here's what they're not telling you. When money becomes fully digital, it stops being yours. Every transaction becomes tracked, monitored, and potentially controlled. Privacy disappears. Financial freedom becomes an illusion, and the power to simply turn off someone's access to money becomes absolute. This isn't some distant dystopian future. This is happening now. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why the death of cash might be the most underrated threat to personal freedom in the 21st century. Let's dive in. The invisible cage being built. The great convenience trade-off. Let me start by acknowledging the obvious. Digital money is incredibly convenient. Tap your phone and pay. Split a dinner bill instantly. Send money across the world in seconds. No need to carry a wallet or worry about making change. It's frictionless, effortless, seamless. And that convenience is precisely the bait, because while we've been enjoying the ease of digital payments, we've been sleepwalking into a system where every single financial transaction we make is recorded, analyzed, and stored forever. Think about what that means. Every coffee you buy, every donation you make, every subscription you forget to cancel, every late-night impulse purchase. It's all there in a database somewhere, painting a perfect picture of your life. Your spending reveals where you go, who you associate with, what you believe, what you struggle with, what you care about. Financial data is behavioral data, and in a cashless world, there's no escape from that surveillance. The cashless canary in the coal mine. Let's look at Sweden because they're furthest down this road. Today, less than 10% of Swedish transactions use cash. Some banks don't even handle physical money anymore. Many stores refuse to accept it. There are elderly people who can't buy groceries because they don't have bank accounts or smartphones. But here's what's interesting. Even in Sweden, people are starting to pump the brakes. The Swedish central bank has warned about the risks of going completely cashless. They've realized that in a crisis, a power outage, a cyber attack, a banking system failure, a society without cash is completely paralyzed. During Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico in 2017, electronic payment systems went down for weeks. People with digital money couldn't access it. The only economy that functioned was cash-based. Sweden saw this and thought, maybe we should keep some cash around just in case. But by then, the infrastructure to support cash was already disappearing. Once you go cashless, there's no easy way back. China's digital yuan, the control blueprint. Now let's talk about China because they're not just going cashless. They're building something far more sophisticated and terrifying. The digital yuan isn't just digital money. It's programmable money. Money that can have rules built directly into it. Imagine money that expires if you don't spend it fast enough, forcing consumption. Money that can only be spent on approved products or in approved locations. Money that can be turned off for individuals the government doesn't like. This isn't speculation. Chinese officials have explicitly discussed these features. They've talked about using the digital yuan for precise monetary policy, which is a euphemism for controlling exactly how, when, and where people can spend their money. And here's the kicker. They're exporting this technology. Countries around the world are watching China's system and taking notes. The digital yuan is the blueprint for financial control in the 21st century. The emerging pattern metaphorically. So we've got convenience as the carrot in the West, and we've got control as the stick in the East. But they're converging toward the same destination, a world without cash. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are being developed by over 100 countries right now. The Federal Reserve is researching a digital dollar. The European Central Bank is working on a digital euro. Even smaller nations are racing to implement their own versions. They all have different stated reasons. Fighting money laundering, reducing costs, improving financial inclusion, modernizing payments, all of which sound reasonable. But they all share one thing. total visibility and potential control over every financial transaction in their economy. The cage isn't being built all at once. It's being built piece by piece, with each piece sold as an improvement. And by the time people realize they're trapped inside, it'll be too late. The power to exclude, when your money isn't really yours. Here's a thought experiment. What do you actually own if someone else can prevent you from using it? In a cashless society, your money exists only as numbers in a database. Numbers that someone else controls. Numbers that can be changed, frozen, or deleted with a few keystrokes. This isn't theoretical. We've already seen this happen. The Canadian trucker convoy, a warning shot. In February 2022, Canadian truck drivers protested COVID-19 mandates. Agree or disagree with their cause, that's not the point. The point is what happened next. The Canadian government invoked emergency powers and instructed banks to freeze the accounts of protesters, and even people who donated to them. No court orders, no due process, just financial depersoning. People woke up unable to pay their mortgages, buy groceries, or access their own money. Crowdfunding platforms were forced to refund donations. Payment processors cut off access. Some of these people had their accounts frozen simply for donating $50 to a cause they believed in. This is what financial control looks like. And it happened in Canada, a Western democracy with strong rule of law. If it can happen there, it can happen anywhere. Now imagine that in a fully cashless society. There's no alternative, no way to operate outside the system. If you're cut off completely. The debanking problem. But you don't even need government action for financial exclusion to happen. Private companies are doing it too. There's a growing phenomenon called debanking, where banks and financial services close accounts or refuse service based on political views, legal but controversial businesses, or even social media posts. Pornography performers, cannabis businesses in states where it's legal, cryptocurrency entrepreneurs, political activists on both the left and right. They're all experiencing financial exclusion, and in many cases they're given no explanation, just a letter saying their account is being closed. No recourse, no appeal. In a cash-based world, this is an inconvenience. In a cashless world, this is exile from economic life itself. Social credit goes global. We look at China's social credit system with horror, a system where your behavior affects your ability to buy plane tickets, get loans, or access services. But we're building something similar in the West. Just more distributed. It's not one government score. It's 1,000 corporate decisions about who deserves access to financial services. Combine that with CBDCs that governments control directly, and you have the infrastructure for social credit by another name. Don't think it'll happen? We're already seeing glimpses. Banks using AI to score customers based on spending patterns. Insurance companies tracking purchases to adjust rates. Credit card companies analyzing transactions to predict behavior. Payment processors blocking legal purchases they politically disagree with. This is the precursor. When money is fully digital and centrally controlled, these become not just business decisions, but existential threats to individual freedom. The ultimate leverage, here's the bottom line. In a cashless society, financial access becomes the ultimate leverage point. Governments can punish dissent without arrests or trials, just freeze accounts. Corporations can enforce social norms without laws, just deny service. Banks can discriminate without accountability, just close accounts. And regular people have zero recourse because there's no alternative system. You can't opt out, you can't use cash, you can't exist economically outside this controlled framework. The power to exclude from the financial system becomes the power to exclude from society itself. The surveillance economy. Your money is telling on you. Every digital transaction you make is a data point, and data is the most valuable commodity in the 21st century. When you use a credit card, that transaction is processed by banks, payment networks, and merchants. All of them collect data about you. What you bought, when, where, how much you spent, what else you looked at. Then they sell that data, or they use it themselves to build profiles of you. Your spending patterns reveal your health conditions, your political beliefs, your relationships, your vulnerabilities. And you agreed to all of this, probably without even realizing it, buried in pages of terms and conditions you never read. The end of anonymous transactions, cash has one superpower: anonymity. When you hand someone a $20 bill for a sandwich, that's it. The transaction is complete, private, untraceable. No record exists. No one is watching. No data is being collected. This might seem trivial until you think about what this enables. Anonymous donations to controversial causes. Private medical purchases, gifts without explanation, supporting vulnerable people without creating a trail, spending money on things that are legal but personal. Cash protects dissidents, whistleblowers, victims of domestic abuse, people escaping persecution. It provides a refuge from surveillance. Digital money offers no such refuge. Every transaction is tracked. Every purchase is recorded. Privacy doesn't exist. And once cash disappears, anonymous transactions disappear with it. Forever. The aggregation problem. Now, you might be thinking, I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't care if my transactions are tracked. But here's the thing. It's not about any single transaction. It's about what happens when all your transactions are aggregated and analyzed. AI can take your spending data and predict your behavior with scary accuracy. It can infer your political views from which news subscriptions you have. It can detect health conditions from pharmacy purchases. It can identify relationships from Venmo transactions. It can predict life changes before you've made them. This data gets sold to advertisers, insurance companies, employers, law enforcement, and who knows who else. It's used to manipulate you, discriminate against you, and make decisions about you, often without your knowledge or consent. In a cashless society, this isn't a privacy concern. It's just reality. Total financial surveillance becomes the baseline condition of existence. The merchant side, behavioral control. And it's not just surveillance, it's control through behavioral manipulation. Digital payments enable dynamic pricing, where different people pay different prices for the same thing based on what algorithms think they'll pay. Airlines do this, Uber does this, Amazon does this. In a cashless world, everyone does this. They can also use gamification, rewards, and psychological triggers to influence your spending. Buy this and get points. Spend more to unlock benefits. Limited time offers designed to trigger FOMO. When all payment is digital, every transaction becomes an opportunity for manipulation, and companies have become terrifyingly good at exploiting cognitive biases through digital interfaces. Cash doesn't manipulate you. Cash doesn't try to upsell you. Cash doesn't track whether you're more likely to overspend on weekends. Cash is neutral. Digital money is a tool for behavioral control, and we're voluntarily giving up the alternative. The fragility factor. The single point of failure. Let's talk about something nobody in the cashless society crowd wants to discuss. Fragility. A cashless society is built entirely on technology infrastructure. That infrastructure can fail, and when it fails, the entire economy stops. In 2018, Visa had a hardware failure in Europe. For several hours, millions of people couldn't make purchases. Businesses lost money. People couldn't buy food. The economy froze. That was a temporary glitch in a society where cash still exists. People could fall back on physical money. Now imagine that in a fully cashless world. No fallback, no alternative, just economic paralysis until the system comes back online. Cyber attacks and system vulnerability. But hardware failures are the least of our worries. The bigger threat is cyber attacks. A cashless economy is incredibly vulnerable to hacking. Banks get breached. Payment processors get compromised. Ransomware attacks hold systems hostage. State actors target financial infrastructure. In a cash-based system, a cyber attack can be devastating. In a cashless system, it's existential. And here's what keeps security experts up at night. The more centralized and digital our money becomes, especially with CBDCs, the more attractive a target the system becomes. One successful attack on a central bank digital currency system could potentially shut down an entire nation's economy, not just for hours, but for days or weeks. We're building a system with a giant attack here sign and assuming nothing will go wrong. Power outages and natural disasters. Then there are the mundane, inevitable disasters. Power outages, natural disasters, infrastructure failures. We've seen this play out. After Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico's digital payment systems were down for weeks. People with digital money couldn't access it. ATMs didn't work. Banks were closed. Credit cards were useless. The only functional economy was cash-based. People who had physical money could buy things. Everyone else was stuck. This is going to keep happening. Climate change is making extreme weather more common. Power grids are aging. Infrastructure is vulnerable. In a cashless society, any major disaster doesn't just knock out power. It knocks out the ability to conduct any economic transactions whatsoever. We're trading resilience for convenience. And that's a devil's bargain. The democratic problem. Here's something subtle but profound. Cash is democratic in a way digital money isn't. Cash doesn't require permission. You don't need a bank account, a smartphone, a credit score, or anyone's approval to use it. It's universal. It's inclusive. Digital money requires infrastructure, technology and access. Not everyone has a smartphone. Not everyone has internet access. Not everyone has a bank account. Not everyone has the technical literacy to navigate digital systems. The elderly, the poor, the unbanked, the technologically excluded. In a cashless society, they're financially invisible. They can't participate in the economy because the tools of economic participation are beyond their reach. We're building a financial system that excludes the most vulnerable by design, and we're calling it progress. The path forward, fighting for cash. So what do? Because the momentum toward cashlessness seems unstoppable. First, use cash. Seriously, the more people use physical money, the harder it is for the infrastructure to disappear. Use cash at local businesses, withdraw cash regularly, normalize physical money. Second, support businesses that accept cash and oppose businesses that go cashless. Vote with your wallet, ironically, for the right to use wallets. Third, push back on CBDCs and mandatory digital payment systems. This is a political issue that affects everyone. Make noise. Contact representatives. Demand that physical currency remains an option. Fourth, understand what you're giving up. Every time you choose convenience over privacy, you're making a trade-off. At least make that trade-off consciously. The middle ground look, I'm not saying we should go back to a purely cash economy. Digital payments have real benefits. The goal isn't to eliminate digital money, it's to preserve choice. We need a hybrid system where both cash and digital payments coexist, where people can choose privacy when they need it and convenience when they want it, where the government and corporations don't have total visibility and control over every financial transaction, where financial exclusion isn't possible because there's always an alternative. That's the world worth fighting for. Not a return to the past, but a future that preserves freedom alongside innovation. The stakes, because here's the thing. Once cash is gone, it's never coming back. The infrastructure to support it disappears. The habits change. The alternatives vanish. We're in the brief window where we still have a choice, where cash is still an option, where we can still push back. But that window is closing, fast. The death of cash isn't just about money. It's about power, privacy, and freedom. It's about whether we live in a society where financial transactions can be private, where economic participation is a right, and where control over our own money is real. Or whether we live in a society where every purchase is tracked, where access to money is conditional, and where financial exclusion is one button click away. That's the choice we're making right now, whether we realize it or not. The death of cash is being sold as inevitable progress, but nothing about it is inevitable. It's a choice, one that's being made for us by governments and corporations with their own interests. You now understand what's at stake. Share this video, because most people don't know. They see convenience and miss the cost. Comment below. Do you still use cash? Do you think we should preserve physical money? Let's have this conversation while we still can. And if you want to keep exploring the forces reshaping our world, often without our consent, subscribe. Because this is just the beginning. The death of cash is happening, but it doesn't have to be a murder. It could be a choice, our choice to keep alternatives alive. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.